Hi and welcome to this episode. I'm bringing a concept from mathematics and I will give you a brief history and development about this concept. And the main reason is why I'm bringing in this concept from mathematics is because it is a very important concept that we can use in our personal finance management. For a long time, it has been used in mathematics, in computer science, in electronics, in engineering, and in other areas. But through the research and understanding how we can develop a concept that can help us to make a decision in personal finance, I've realized this is a good concept that we can conceptually apply in our personal financial management in making a comprehensive decisions about our future finance. And therefore, for those in mathematics and in other areas, they know about it, they have been using it for many years, but maybe somehow, somewhere, they have never realized that this concept is very important in personal finance. And therefore, we are going to coin it and bring it to the other side, close the bridge, to see how we can use it in our personal finance and how it can help us to think logically, conceptually. It can allow us to reason logically to make decisions from complex information, complex statements in our personal finance. So stay with me until the end, and we at the end of this video, I know you're going to appreciate that this concept is very important and it can help you in making your personal financial decision strategically. Let's start by understanding a brief history and development of this concept. And this concept talks about the De Morgan's law. So I'm basically talking about the De Morgan's law. The De Morgan's law was named after Augustus De Morgan, who lived between 1806 and 1871. And from the history, he was a British mathematician. So he was instrumental in developing formal logic and symbolic reasoning in 19th century. So it is from this, or from his research and his understanding, that the field of mathematics has evolved and has developed to be able to help the mathematicians in making logic decisions. And that is why mathematics is a very, very important subject, is a very, very important area which help us to break down complex information, complex statements, and help us to solve the world problems. And therefore, he came up with the two logic laws. And this two logic law has now become a fundamental in both mathematics and in computer science. And they have been used for many years in algebra of logic. And his idea helped to lay the groundwork for what we call the Boolean algebra and set theory. And where these are a very important field in computer science, computer programming, and also in electrical engineering and in digital circuit designing. And from my understanding, the Boolean algebra is very important also in programming, in web designing, in understanding how you're going to structure the statement to ensure that you are going to get the information that you want. And from that, we need to understand what is the De Morgan's law. The De Morgan's law described how negation interact with logic operations. So what is negation? So we're saying in simple terms, they help us to understand how we break down or simplify complex logic expressions. For those who have interacted with this law, they can understand better what I'm talking about. But the key issue here is we need to understand what we mean by negation. Negation is simply a refusal or a denial of something. I can give you an example. If your friend thinks you owe him $5 and you say you don't have, he thinks that you owe him $5 or you actually owe him $5, but when he asks for it, he say you don't have. So your statement is a negation. So it is just a statement that cancels out or deny another statement or an action. So you can see the symbolic reasoning that I'm bringing out, the conceptualization of this idea that I'm bringing out, so that you can be able to think logically. What does this statement mean? If this and this and this is not done, then so what? And that is the essence of us understanding the De Morgan's law. So what is the De Morgan's law? So in logic, he stated these two laws. And law number one, as you can see in the screen, start by saying not into bracket A or B, which is equals into bracket not A or into bracket not B. And law number two says not into bracket A or B, which is equals to into bracket not A and into bracket not B. So what are we trying to express here? What are we trying to express here? We're simply saying, to be able to translate in simple words, that this law shows how negation or negating combined statements can be expressed using logical equivalent. So here we're using A and B. But practically, we can replace A and B with a statement that can help us to solve and understand a world problem and how we can solve it. That is what we are saying. So how is it used in logic and in computing? So this law is very important in programming. How? Trying to simplify logic conditions in if statements. So those who have done programming in web design, in Java, in Python, they understand how we work with if statement and how important it is in designing what we want to get. It's also important in digital electronics, that is designing and minimizing logic circuits. Very important. In mathematics, we use it in solving problems involving the sets and probability. And more importantly, in the new development that we have and where we are in the field of artificial intelligence, the De Morgan's law, or this logic, is used in handling rule-based logic. And this is why in artificial intelligence systems that we have many of them and apps that are coming up, that you give it a statement and it is able to give you an answer. You give it a statement and you tell it not this one but this one, and it is able to give you that. So that is the reasoning That's the logical reasoning that I'm talking about. But the key issue here, that is a brief history and understanding on how this law operates and how it works. But the most important part which I'm bringing across is how can we apply this logic reasoning conceptually in our personal finance and make logical strategic decisions that can help us to solve our world problems that we have. That is the key theme of this episode or of this video. So let's see how we can use this concept or this logic reasoning from the De Morgan's law and use it in our personal finance. And you'll be able to understand how important it is and why we have not been using it. So my question is, why have we not been using it? So I'm bringing it out, even for other scholars in the finance, to pick it up from where we'll stop, so that we can see how we can integrate it in finance and help us to make reasonable decisions and can help us to think strategically in making our personal finance decision, and we can be able to secure our future. So I'm saying this, that De Morgan's law originally is a principle in mathematics, or it's a principle in mathematical logic and set theory. That is where the Augustus De Morgan's started, and it has evolved over time. And many other scholars have used it to develop something like what we are calling the Boolean algebra. So it has not been used directly in personal finance. But out of the research that I have done and out of my interaction with this law, it can be applied conceptually to improve decision making and strategic thinking, risk management in our personal finance. So we can use it conceptually, and it is very, very important because it will make us reason logically in making decisions. So work with me and let us break it down and see how we can apply it practically in making our personal finance decisions. So now, how can it apply in personal finance planning? So point number one, finance decision making. So we understand very well that in financial decision making, many times we are faced with the two issues, the risk and trade-off. And therefore we ask ourselves, how can this concept, how can this law that was developed many years ago be applied here in field of finance in helping us to make financial decisions? For example, you might think I cannot afford both investing and spending on luxury. So using the De Morgan's concept, we can say this. We can say this and read it here. Not into bracket, invest and spend on luxury, close the bracket, is equals to not invest or not spending on luxury. This means if you cannot do both, you have to give up either investing or luxury spending. You see now how we can apply it symbolically to help us make decisions. So if you cannot be able to invest and spend on luxury, then it means you have to give up on either investing so that you continue spending your money anyhow the way you want, spending your resources the way you want, or you invest and you reduce how you do your spending. So this will help us to reframe our decision like this. If I want to secure my future, I have to cut back on luxury or increase on income. Meaning I have to reduce the much I spend on impulse buying, on spending on luxury, on things that I don't need, and increase my income streams. Or I increase my income. And what do we mean? You have to increase your income streams so that you can be able to secure your future. This is what we mean. Point number 2 is budgeting and goal setting. In any finance decision that you are making, you need to have a budget, whether a short-term, medium, or long-term, where you're going to set your goals, and whether these goals are going to be short-term, mid-term, or long-term, so that you are able to secure your future. For example, if I don't save or invest consistently, I won't build wealth. And logically, if we put this into the concept of the law number 2 of the De Morgan's law, we're saying not into bracket save or invest equals not save and not invest. So you're not saving and you're not investing. So what does it mean? Then there is no wealth you're building. That is what we mean. And that is how logically we can be able to craft this statement and help and use this law to help us to make decisions. So this emphasizes that failing in both saving and investment means you are completely out of the track and completely you are not secure in your future. You are just spending your money, and at the end of the day you will have nothing to show off. This is how this law we can use it to help us make decisions. Point number 3 is mindset and habits. So in my other videos, I've talked more about how our mindsets shapes our habits, how we think, how our mental block is determines how we are going to make decisions, and how it affects. It did help us to develop a good habit or a bad habit on how we spend the money, on how we spend the resources. So thinking in the De Morgan's way, it can help us to clarify the mental block, how we think. And this is what you're saying: I cannot be financially free and keep bad spending habits. So if you think logically within the concept of De Morgan's law, and you're saying I cannot be financially free and keep bad spending, it is never, and it will never happen. There is no way you can be financially free and you keep on engaging in bad spending habits. So to be financially free, I must drop at least one of those bad habits. So you must be able to drop these bad habits if you want to be financially free. And this one can help us to think in through that perspective. So finally, though this concept has not traditionally been a finance concept, the De Morgan law helps personal finance planners think more logically, strategically, and clearly about decisions, the trade-offs, and the financial consequences if they don't do this or that. So if you don't save and invest, then you will not be talking about financial freedom. You will not be securing your future. Then that is the financial consequences. So we can coin this new law and bring it on the other side of finance, and we can call it De Morgan's Abraham's law of finance, in recognition of who started and who have proposed it to include it in finance, so that other scholars can pick from there and they can continue to develop it and strategically put it in finance, so that it can, especially in personal finance, so that it can help us to make strategic decisions logically and clearly about the decisions that we make and the way forward in our personal finance. So the law will offer us a powerful lens to frame our decisions, and especially the financial decisions. So understanding them can help us with clarity or clarification in how we reason, whether you're analyzing your investments or planning about a budget. Very, very much important. It can help you to think strategically. So finally, take action now and take control of your finance. Make wise decision, apply this law, and it is going to help you to make a decision. It's a very important law that we can apply in finance and help you make personal finance decision logically, and you can be able to improve on your finances. So if this video is very helpful to you, you can like, you can comment, you can subscribe, and you can share with your colleagues so that they can make good personal finance decisions. So until next time, thank you.